Hi, I'm Susan, and welcome to Susan Stanley Stitch in Time, episode number 56. This channel is where we look at cross-stitch and quilting and sewing in the past, along with notions, methods, and the material culture surrounding all of this wonderful textile goodness. I'm really excited you're here today. I'm so thrilled to welcome the new viewers, and thank you so much for coming back. Today's episode is going to be so fun, and it is primarily the launch of the next in the series of doll quilt kits for the First Stitches products. So I hope you'll join me, and if you aren't familiar with that, I hope you'll peek at some of the past episodes so you can get up to speed with the story. Stick around. I hope you like what we have to offer. I have been working on this project for a year, really formulating it, putting it together. So it's always just a day where I'm bursting to share it with you. And I know some of you have been anxiously waiting, messaging me and telling me how excited you are as well. So thank you so much for participating and for being a part of my channel and this project. Part of what I've done this year is I've crafted a story around two little girls, and the story is now leading into this doll quilt. And so I'd like to read to you the next chapter in Pharaby's journey with her stitching. We've been working diligently on Corliss's first trousseau quilt, which is behind me, and I will stock some more of those kits as people have been interested in joining in. But so far we've done the center and the first frame, so that would be 2 parts, and I do plan to add more. It's just been really fun. It's fun to connect with everybody and see your progress. I'm so glad you're posting on #first_stitches. And so as part of this story, we've had these 2 little girls. They live in Kentucky. One of them is in Boyette and one is in Louisville, and they are living in 1870, and I'm trying to create a fictional, close to historically accurate as I can, account of how children would have learned to sew and what the textile world was like and the material culture of what was going on around them in that specific area. So we're up to chapter 17, and I'm just going to read this to you before we start out, and then I'll share the kit because this will kind of lead us into that. So last time we had our little girl Pharaby and her doll Althea working on patchwork and getting ready for some templates to be cut from a itinerant tinsmith who had come to town, and her family was using some of his services to outfit things in the barn and tools and things like that. So let's get started. Chapter 17. It's November 1870. Pharaby watched the rain streaks form lace-like patterns on the kitchen window as she stitched. Althea was propped up against the pane of glass, wearing her new scarf. Mother had been busy canning the last of the harvest and baking treats for the upcoming holiday season that was quickly approaching. The pantry was full, and Pharaby felt warm and safe and happy. President Grant had announced a new holiday for the United States. He'd announced this in June, and he planned to put it into action in November. The holiday would be called Thanksgiving. Each state was going to delegate and pick their week to celebrate. Pharaby and her family were planning to celebrate along with the rest. The straight edge from Mother's sewing work basket and the items from the traveling tinsmith lay on the table next to Pharaby's other stitching necessities. There was a shiny 2-inch square and the most beautiful shooting star she'd ever seen. "The tin square will help you cut out the patches for your next quilt," said Mother. Pharaby couldn't wait to finish piecing Althea's doll quilt so she could baste the layers together and begin quilting and use the star template. Pharaby's mother had asked the tinsmith for a star shape, as she knew the winter solstice was coming, which signified the first day of winter. There would be many long months of cold weather ahead after the solstice, and usually there was snow in January. That evening she would serve warm cider with a cinnamon stick and her special ginger shortbread. She would do the same to celebrate on the 21st of December as her mother had done when she was a child. Often, when Pharaby had grown tired of sewing patches together, she played with the tin star template and straight edge to imagine the quilting design she would create. She carefully moved the template pieces around on the growing quilt top, trying a variety of positions and angles. Mother was pleased with Pharaby's work and told her that the tin star could be added to the tree once she was done using it for the quilt. Father came into the kitchen carrying a stack of books and catalogs. "I want you to have your own section in the garden this spring, Pharaby," he said, placing the stack on the table. Father had spent many days planning his crop for next year, consulting the Farmer's Almanac for information on the best time to plant, the seed catalog for the new items he could add to the family garden. "The pole beans were especially plentiful this year. I think I would like to grow them again," said Mother, "and I'd like to add another variety too." Father agreed and added a few more items to the order list. Pharaby was growing tired of sewing patches, so she stacked everything up neatly, placed her sewing needle in a flannel, and pulled her marking sampler out of her new sewing bag. With her mother's help, she had used the toweling Corliss had sent to create a lovely work bag for all of her sewing items. Together they had stitched up the sides and added cording for a tie at the top. Pharaby hoped she could show it to Corliss someday. The monogram she had added to the front had been a new challenge. Pharaby had never used waist linen before to mark the placement of her stitching, and she felt a sense of pride at learning a new skill. Her favorite part of the entire process was picking out the monogram letter from Mother's Peterson's magazines. Each alphabet had different embellishments, and she found it so difficult to decide. "I think I want this one," she said to Mother as she pointed to a simple yet elegant font. "That will do," said Mother. After sitting down for supper, Father said, as he passed the stewed carrots with butter and honey, "When I was in town yesterday, I heard that a traveling photographer would be making his way to Boyette the second week of December. What do you think about making an appointment to get a picture made of Pharaby this year?" Pharaby beamed. "Well, that might be mighty nice," Mother said. Her mind immediately began racing. She would have to set aside some of the household money to get Pharaby newly knitted stockings and shoes. The Christmas dress she'd been sewing in secret would have to be finished quickly so Pharaby could wear it for the picture taking. The new tintype photos were much cheaper than the earlier daguerreotypes, and Mother felt a sense of pride as she pictured in her mind Pharaby dressed for the occasion. When supper was cleaned up and all the dishes were put away, Pharaby and Althea retired to the drawing room to listen to Mother read. After adding another log to the fire, Father sat in his chair, thumbing idly through the almanac. There was a soft glow in the room as the lanterns flickered, casting shadows on the furnishings. "I want to read to you from a book that was mine when I was young," said Mother. Pharaby knew exactly which book Mother was going to pull off the shelf, even before she did. The book was called Rhymes for the Nursery by Anne and Jane Taylor. She remembered hearing other poems and rhymes from the same volume ever since she was very small. Her favorite had been Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. As Pharaby settled in with Althea in her lap, Mother began to read. The work bag. I've got a pretty piece, come here. 'Twill make a work bag for you, dear. Indeed, you will not often see a nicer bag than this shall be. Now make it neatly, do your best, and then I'll show you all the rest. Nice things I've got, yes, you shall look. Scissors, thread, and a needle book. So if you always keep them in, you know you'll need not lose a minute in hunting up and down to say, wherever are my things today? Pray, someone, do try and look to find my thread and needle book. But then the pleasant sound shall be, they're in my work bag, only see. All right, so we find Pharaby now getting ready for the winter solstice that's coming, and her father is a hemp farmer, and that was something that was celebrated and welcomed. And as the new season came, and father's taking his time now to plan for the next year's harvest. And it was not uncommon for a child in a household, actually each child in the household, to have their own little gardening patch to be responsible for. It was teaching them a skill for the future. So not only is Pharaby stitching and putting patches together, and eventually she'll be sewing clothing and other household items, she is now going to start working on her own garden. And the daguerreotype was really a fun thing to add. The tintype was a fun thing to add, as you know, having a photograph taken, a picture made of your family or a child was something really special. It cost, I think, a lot of money in those days, and we take pictures with our phones constantly now. So what a change that has been in the culture of our world. And I think adding the storyline of that into this makes it even more special. Farming was huge in Kentucky in 1870. Hemp growing was one of the major commodities. And I can just imagine a little girl playing with her patches and her dolly and her tin templates and trying to work out a pattern, kind of like we do now. Anyway, more on that next time, because there's more exciting things coming in this story. And the poem is actually from the book Rhymes for the Nursery, which was written in 1801 and would still have been around by 1870, and contained sweet poems like the one I just read to you about work bags. Children were taught to be responsible for their things. It was really important that they grow into adulthood and have skills for living, and that was one of them. So thank you for joining me for that chapter. And now I'd like to talk to you about the Solstice Quilt kit that I'm launching. So many of you will remember the little girl from last year, who was Mary. Her name was Mary, and here's her picture. She was the little girl I crafted from 1840, and she lived in St. Louis, Missouri. And her project came in a scrap bag, and she made a simple patchwork quilt. And that was the first step in learning to put pieces together. She was younger and she was just beginning patchwork. And many of you joined me for that. And I hope that you'll join me for this next quilt as well. You do not necessarily have to have done the first project to do this next project. This is a skill building series, and so you can catch up and you can jump right in with this, or you can also go back and purchase Mary 1840 kits. I do have some of those available, and all the tutorials are still up on my on my YouTube channel, and they're available for you to use, and they're free. Just go ahead and look at them to help you. And you might want to use them to refresh your memory on this quilt if you're starting in your quilting adventure. So I am so excited to offer this to you. Like I said before, I've been cooking this plan for a year. It takes me a lot of time to do the research and pull something together that I think will be really special for you. The quilt and the instructions are, like I said, the second part of our First Stitches skill building journey that we've been taking. Again, I'm offering a proximate experience on how children would have learned skills in 1870 and with the tools and the fabrics from that time. And then I also this time am adding on some contemporary tool options that I'll talk about in a little bit. So you can make a choice as to how you'd like to approach the project. Just like last year's kit and instructions, I have formatted this to make you successful. I want you to feel like you're growing in your abilities and that you're accomplishing and finishing the project and you're pleased with your results. This project is a fantastic next step for any age learner, children too. And if a child didn't do the last project, they could jump in and do this one, maybe just with a little extra guidance. Or someone of any age who wants to begin a collection of doll quilts that represent different time periods and locations. And so I have selected fabrics from the time period that we're talking about, and I've done research on the locations and what was going on. And so hopefully it makes it a meaningful item to have in your home that you can look back at and remember, the experience and the stories. So, like I said, last year we joined Mary, and you don't have to have done that to do this. However, it is available if you still want to do it. Now, I have crafted this project primarily as a hand piecing project. We learned earlier in the story of Pharaby and Corliss that sewing machines were available for the domestic market. People could purchase a sewing machine in the year 1870. They were available to the general public, but they were not easily accessible for every household. Not every household could afford to have one. But in spite of all that, you still needed to know how to sew. Sewing was an essential for, life. And so this is an experience in the way things were done in the past. And of course, if you want to sew this quilt up on the machine, you are more than welcome to do that. Maybe you've enjoyed the stories, you are proficient on a sewing machine, and you want to have the quilt in your home to remember the story and the little girls because that means something to you. That's perfectly fine. This is your project, and you need to do it the way that pleases you. Or perhaps you want to get started and try these simple proximate tools and do a little bit, maybe halfway, maybe a few items that way, and then say, you know what, okay, I can see, wow, things have really improved. It was hard to get, things were much more challenging in the past, and you want to move from a initial experience with the proximate tools into more contemporary tools. That's great too. I have a lot of things on my website that you can use if you don't already have them in your collection to make it easier, and I'm going to share a little more in a minute. So it's totally up to you as to the experience that you would like to have. All right? This is your experience. So I'm going to show you a short unboxing video on what the kit contains, and then offer some further explanation. But before I do that, I'm going to pop in a picture of the finished quilt. I've been showing you teasers. So this is what the quilt looks like. And now I'm going to show you the unboxing video. Okay, I hope you're as excited as I am to dive into this kit. I want to go through it a little bit and explain a few things to you so that make it a little more clear. In the unboxing, you saw the feed sack bag and it already had the P on it. Yours will not come with the P. You get to do that yourself. And I take you through that step by step to, if you've never done cross stitch before, you can do this. It's very straightforward and I'll take you through. So basically, this little drawstring bag is the toweling that Corliss sent to Pharaby and is reminiscent of the feed sack bags that I shared with you last time. Now this one's folded in half. That's how long these things are. And they were all monogrammed with the initial of the family or whoever was getting the items from the grain mill. I love this one. It's huge. It's almost as tall as I am. This is folded in half. You can believe that. It's a coarse linen. It's just probably, I think it might have hemp in it or some other type of fiber. Anyway, it's really amazing. So that's why Pharaby's little scrap bag, her little sewing bag now that she's put together, looks kind of like a grain sack, and that's the toweling from Corliss. So that's the first step. Now, I want to read to you a quote because you're probably wondering why did I pick the theme of solstice? This quote is so beautiful, and it's from Margaret Atwood, and it says, "This is the solstice, the still point of the sun, its cusp and midnight, the year's threshold and unlocking, where the past lets go of and becomes the future, the place of caught breath." And I just feel like that is this time of year for me. And I wanted the quilt to have the feeling of stillness and quiet and minimal greenery shown around with little pops of red as the earth is changing now and going into a quiet season. I am extremely motivated by the changes of seasons and very much in tune to them, and I love everything about them. All right, so let's look at what's in the kit and talk about it a tiny bit. Okay, I've got a lot going on here. Hopefully I can keep this together. One item I want to go through the items that need a little explanation. This is the tin star that is the shooting star, represents the winter solstice, and I had this made for you. I just wanted to let you know that the edges are perfectly, fine to rub your finger over. They're not like a knife edge or anything. They're very dulled down, but the points are a tiny bit sharp. So be careful if you're working with a child or if you're using these. The tips are sharp, and then maybe when you're done, when your project's over, you'll want to, hang this somewhere as a memory. So that's my little bit I want to tell you about that. The straight edge is 12 inches long. It's also 1 1/4 inches wide, and you'll wonder, why does that matter, Susan? Well, that will come in later. I'll tell you why. But it's been branded with my First Stitches logo. I'm so excited about it. And I want to tell you a little bit about a straight edge or a ruler. The 12-inch straight edge was first introduced by the ancient Romans, but it was not standardized. A standardized measurement was not in place in the United States until 1832. People would use their hand span, they would use 2 fingers as a measurement, they would use their feet. They would use dishes, all kinds of things. So people were creative in trying to have a consistent measurement. Now that worked great, except that my 2 fingers span is probably bigger than somebody else's 2 fingers span. So that was not as consistent person to person. But Pharaby would have definitely had access to a straight edge or something along those lines. Maybe her family had tools that had inch marks or something on them. but we don't know. And a child probably wouldn't have been trusted with something like that, because that would have been a special item in the household. So people made do with what was available to them, and they accomplished tasks. And this is the case for Pharaby. I am still hand quilting my Solstice quilt, and I'll show that to you in a minute. But I used a combination of the straight edge and the tin star to accomplish that design. And it will all be explained in the tutorials. One special item in the kit that will be a treasure to you, I hope, because I just had to add this to the kit. This is something that I now will be using in my textile journey. I love this pencil. This is a Blackwing pencil. The lead is graphite, wax, and ceramic. And it glides over the paper like you can't believe, but it also glides over fabric. It is a fantastic marking tool. You know, unfortunately with graphite, you can't see that on dark fabric, and I do address that in the tutorials and offer you other options. Remember, Mary used the head of the needle eye to score a line, a crease in the fabric for her stitching. She folded her fabrics over the edge of a Bristol paper to cause a crease, so that she used creases and folds to do a lot of her work, and that was common. That was a way that things were done. But this is not approximate. This is something from the 1940s, 1950s. They were very popular, Blackwing, with let's see, well, actually Ernest, I think Hemingway, John Steinbeck wrote using a Blackwing. Disney, and I read that and listened to a video that I'm going to link below. If you want to know the history of this pencil, I'm linking a video to you for you to watch below, because you will have a new appreciation for this pencil. But one of the features I love about it is this is flat and it doesn't roll. Once you set it down, it won't go anywhere. But I even more than that, I love what the lead does. So this is in your kit. It is not an approximate tool. It is a tool with a story. It doesn't go back to the 1800s, but it has a lovely story, and I wanted you to have this. Is very special, and this will be with, I will have these always in my life now. I love them so much. They you can, anyway, so please watch the video to find out more. Other options I have to offer you. So the rest of the things in the kit are things that if you did the project last time, you'll be familiar with. There's 2 Bristol paper squares this time. There's a tin square template, because you might want to use that instead of the Bristol, and you might want to draw, but you'll see in the tutorials. You have 4 different threads for your piecing, your quilting, your cross stitching, your hemming, all of that. You have different needles that are explained in the directions in the kit, in the downloadable directions, and you have a cross stitch chart. You have a piece of waste canvas, and then you have some threads that are from Corliss to Pharaby. So I've shown you what is in the kit, and then of course, yeah, the fabrics. You have more than enough fabric to make the kit, to make the quilt. The batting and the backing and the binding are also in here. So now I'm adding to the experience 2 tools, 2 options, add-on options that you can add if you think, you know what, I think I want to do it that way. You can add, in addition to the kit. One of them is, I'm going to put a video in here. I'm going to show you a video of what I've added, because I think you might enjoy the way I explain it. Okay. There are 2 add-on options for the Solstice quilt if you would like to branch beyond a proximate 1870s experience. Now, it's not to say that these materials were not available or this method was not used in 1870. It's just that these materials are very contemporary. So the first option I'm offering to you is acrylic templates. You can place these on your fabric and draw a line on the outside for your cutting line, and then a line on the inside for your sewing line. You can do that for both the square and the triangle, and you can completely hand piece this project. That is an option for you. And these are these have a nice 3/8 inch seam allowance. Or if you would like to add on the option of English paper piecing, I have provided a kit that gives you all the triangle papers you'll need, plus a few extra, and all the square papers that you will need. And you can make this entire quilt using the English paper piecing method. Now, you might want to buy and combine both, because after you draw around this for your cutting line and you draw an inner square, or just use the inner square for your paper, you've made your cutting a lot easier. So it's up to you. You can stick with the proximate experience, or you can try these tools that are methods from the 1870s that would have been available, but with more contemporary materials. They didn't have acrylic in 1870. Okay, so as I told you, I am still quilting on my quilt. I added a lot of extra quilting to this little project. I'm going to show it to you close up. I don't know if you can see the stitches, but this is what it looks like. This is what it looks like not bound. It's going to be bound with a red binding, and that's in the kit. I'm going to put another video in here that explains a little bit about marking tools for the quilting. I want to do this all now in case you say, yeah, I definitely want to order that, so you can order everything right now and not have to have additional shipping. Let's take a look at how we're going to mark this quilt and set it up for quilting. You can see I've already started quilting on mine, and I played around with the star template and the straight edge that's available in the kit. And I decided, for me, I wanted to put these stars going into each corner on an angle. And so that's what I did. So, and I just did one at a time. I started with these because you want to start, if you remember from the Mary kit, you want to start in the middle and work out so that you disperse the fabric evenly. And when I got done, I thought, you know, I think it needs a double line so you really can see it. So let me hold this up so you can see that I've done a double line. And I just eyeballed about 1/4 inch in from the outer edge. And I could draw a line here. I could even go in and do some more. I don't think it needs it, but it just depends on personal preference. Now, this isn't to say you have to do it this way. You could do the star in this position. You could even do the star shooting out. It's completely up to you. What I really liked about the way this turned out, and it was just kind of a happy accident, is that I got this beautiful secondary design in the middle. And so I think you can see that right there. Okay. Now, in the Mary project, in Mary 1840 project, I taught you that the common marking tool was the tip of the needle, the head of the needle. And you would just gently etch that into the fabric and score a line and stitch over that. And that is a perfectly good way, it's a perfect way to do this project. You are going metal up against metal, and really it stays in there until you stitch through it, and you can spritz it with water to get rid of it. I know that's not for everybody, and this quilt I think kind of calls for a little more quilting than the Mary quilt. I wanted to do something special using the star, but if you don't want to do that, you can cross hatch and just stitch straight lines just like we did for Mary. It's completely up to you. Just remember, you start in the middle and move out. If you need a refresher, that video for Mary 1840, Quilting Your Doll Quilt, is still available. It's on my YouTube channel and it's free for you to look at to refresh your memory. I want to show you two more contemporary tools that I do have available in my shop. You don't have to use them, but I want to let you know they are available. The first one, and it's a contemporary tool that I just won't live without, and it's the Bowen chalk pencil. And I like the white. It's the color chalk that I use that I like the most. And in the chalk is some ceramic. And that keeps this really stable on the fabric until you stitch through it, and then it just kind of disperses. You can walk away for a day and leave it on there and it's just going to sit. You have to kind of rub it to get it out, but it's there. I've never ever heard or had, you can see that line that I drew a couple days ago, of a problem with this product having a reaction on the fabric. Never heard of a problem. So basically, you would just you're going to take your straight edge and line it up, or the tin star. When you are going up against the tin star, don't push too hard because you'll snap that chalk right off because you are going against metal. And you're just going to hold it and draw a line. And I go back and forth a couple of times just to make sure it's good. Let's see if I got that in the right spot here. All right, and now that I have a nice quilting line right there on the fabric. Hopefully that's easy to see. Okay, and as I go, I'm pulling out my basting stitches. So I don't want to quilt over the basting stitches because they might get caught and tangled together, and then when I pull the basting stitches out, I mess up my quilting threads. Okay, so this is available on my website if you're interested. Like I said, it's not a necessity. And then another tool that I think is really good is this Hera marker. And it's kind of a misnomer because it marks by leaving a dent. And it does kind of what the head of the eye of the needle does. You have two shapes. You have a paddle and you have a point. And basically, you're going to do the same thing with this as you did with the needle head or with any marking tool. I like to use this paddle. I use it the most. This is a really good turning tool as well if you're turning things inside out. And I just lay my template down and then go back and forth with the Hera marker a few times. And you get a nice, oh, you know what? Well, you can see it, but I'll move to a place where there's no basting stitches. You can see that nice crease in the fabric there, and it goes all the way down. And that's my line for quilting. Let me do another one let me do this corner. All right, so I've decided that I'm going to go from the tip of the star to the point of the corner. Now, I didn't get that star lined up perfectly, but I want to just go right on the angle of this square here. Okay. See that nice dent there? You can see it. That's going to be super easy to see and super easy to quilt over. So those are the tools that I like to use. The head of the needle, the Bowen marker, or the Hera marker. These are the templates in your kit, and I hope you have fun. I hope you experiment and make this personal and enjoy. I do combine shipping. If you order several items, it's going to look like the shipping is astronomical. I combine all that, I weigh the products that you've purchased, and I refund you the difference. So please don't panic. I'm sorry, I know that's scary, but I'll take good care of you, I promise. So how does this work? When you sign up, when you purchase the kit, you also receive access to the downloadable PDF, which is the pattern, and there are photos and step-by-step instructions to take you through this. I would download it right away, either keep it on your laptop or your iPad, or print it out, put it in a notebook, whatever works best for you, so that you have access to that. And then there will be a few helpful additional videos just to say, okay, let me show you this another way in a video, just to help you through. And of course, if you ever have questions, I am accessible. You can email me. My contact information is always at the bottom in the show notes of my channel. It's also on my website, and I'm going to scroll it here across the bottom while I'm talking. So I will be there to help you through any hurdles that you have to overcome, or if there's any other issues that you have. I want to help you with your patchwork skills as you explore different time periods and we learn the next step. How is this going to work? Kits are limited. They are going to go live on my website Thursday, November 21st at 8 a.m. Pacific time. I'm going to scroll that down here. I'll say that one more time. So Thursday, November 21st at 8 a.m. The kits will be live and ready for sale. Hopefully you've watched all these videos and made decisions about any additional items you want to add so that you can get them all at the same time. And this would be such a lovely project to start during the holiday season when you're, taking a break from all the festivities and the busyness of this time. You can just cut out a few patches and start putting them together and just thinking about earlier days. And I have more exciting stories to share with you about Corliss and Pharaby this next month in December. So I'm really looking forward to this kind of closing chapter on these girls. We will still be talking about them next year. I hope you'll join me. I hope you'll share your progress. So many people have shared their progress with their Mary quilts on Instagram, #first_stitches, and that's here. I am also starting to load the website shop with gift items and sewing essentials. I'm going to start taking you through some sewing essentials for those of you who are new to sewing and patchwork, things that you will want to have. And I think some of these items are helpful for cross stitch and other things as well. And Corliss, our girl who made the quilt behind me, will be adding in the year 2025, she's going to be adding another frame to her quilt. So if you're working on this, it won't be right away. It will be, probably 3 months into the year, maybe end of February, March. I'm not sure. Won't be right away because we have a lot to do. But she's going to be adding an additional frame to this. So if you're working on this project or you'd like to get started, make sure that you give it a little time every day. How do I get things done? I just do one little thing, one step at a time. And sometimes I don't feel like I'm getting much done, but eventually 1 or 2 little stitches a day, picking my hexagons up in the morning for an hour and then another project in the evening for an hour. Maybe during the day I can do a little stitching too. It all eventually adds up. So don't let yourself be overwhelmed. Enjoy every step of the process because it is all about the process. Of course, we love to finish things too, but I am also adding a video. I think I'm going to put it on YouTube. So I've had a lot of people ask me to show them the sewing sample book that I shared 2 episodes ago in Sampler September. I'll link below the episode that was in. And I did a video where I just flipped through the pages and showed you a little closer look at what was going on in that, and it's really kind of charming. So if you want to do that, want to check that out, that's coming available too. Thank you again for joining me. Next time I will have some of my own personal stitching. I'll show you the progress I've done on quilts and samplers. I have 2 wonderful lecture symposiums that I've attended that I want to tell you about. I have some great haul that I haven't had a chance to tell you about, but you'll be hearing about from other people, some of it. So anyway, thank you again, and I'm so glad you're here. And I think as we walk through creating quilts and work boxes from different time periods, we just enjoy the depth and breadth of needlework across the centuries. So until I see you again, make time for stitching. Remember November 21st, 8 a.m. Bye, friends.